Hello, it's Melinda from Scrapbooking and in today's video we're going to do a class featuring one of our chipboard frames. So this is one of our what we call our page frame ranges. So this frame is 29 centimeters at its longest, which is tip to top, and then obviously this one is about 25 centimeters wide. So our page frames come in a huge variety of shapes and sizes. This is a heart with lots of squiggles on it. We have square ones, we have ones with pictures in it, we have a lot of variety on our website, and they are currently in August 2020, they are $7 each. They are on special periodically, so do go check out our website. And we can also custom make them as well. So if you see a frame, say for example, I've got a cricket frame, but your little son or daughter does karate, email me and say, can I have a karate frame, or can I have a ballet frame, or can I have a football frame? We can do certain custom made designs within the restrictions of copyright and trademark and all that fun legal stuff. Worst comes to worst is I say no, I can't make it. I can't make something that says Disney, for example, or stuff like that. It just depends. Just ask and we'll let you know if we can or can't. So today we're going to be working with decorating this frame. We're also going to be working with one of our stencils. Actually, two of our stencils. This is our bird mask and stencil set, so we're going to be working with that one as well. And we're also going to be using papers from the Vicky Bouton. Does this have a collection? If I find the collection name, I will let you know. I just grabbed this when it was on special at Spotlight, which is our local craft store here in Australia. I just liked it because of the butterflies and the flowers and stuff. First things first, we've got to do something with our frame. At the moment it looks a bit boring. So this is a technique. Oh, I can't put that on my keyboard because I'll shut the camera off. So any chipboard needs to be coloured before you use it. You could use it raw if you wanted to, but hey, it looks a bit boring. Especially this one because it's got a lot of flat pieces. Like some of our frames are just like this. They're really, really skinny, and you can just put black ink or paint on them and they look really cool. This one, because it's got a lot of flat surfaces, I want to give it a bit of a texture and a bit of personality. So hence where my stencil comes in. So if you're watching this with Craft Alive or within the month of August 2020, you can actually get these supplies 25% off on our website. They will be listed under the Great Australian Craft Show number 5 in the classroom. On the left-hand side of our website, it's got the Great Australian Craft Show number 5 class things that I use in the classes, so you can easily find them. So I copy them to those categories. So this technique works better with a small stencil as opposed to a large open stencil. So it wouldn't, for example, I've actually got my bag of stencils right next to me. I actually store my stencils in one of these Ziploc bags from Kmart. I'll just grab another one of mine out. So that one, or yeah, that's a good example. So for example, this is our mixed up honeycomb stencil. So if I put this down here, you're not going to actually get a lot of the design on the chipboard. So this is probably not the best stencil to use because you're only going to get like pieces of it, and it's not going to look good. So what you want to do for this technique is you want to get a nice fine small design stencil. What we're going to do is take some texture paste and a spatula and a gift card and have some fun. So this is just texture paste or modelling paste from Aldi. I picked up a couple of years ago. I like to try different things. Unfortunately, Aldi don't stock it every week because these were like $3, so it was really good value. But there is texture paste or modelling paste in Pasto Medium. Gel Medium works as well. Anything that dries raised works really well. My good friend Jen from Hillbilly Scrappin' has texture paste and all that sort of stuff. So you can pop on over to her website and tell her that Mel sent you. We team up and do the craft. Well, we did team up in 2019 for the last 6 months and do some craft shows together. Because of COVID, unfortunately, all the Craft Alive in-person craft shows have been closed down. So now we are doing some classes online. So Hillbilly Scrapping stocks texture paste, she stocks glues. Don't think she has the paper we're using, but she stocks a lot of things because I only stock on my website my chipboard, my stencils, my foam stamps. Got a theme there, my stuff, and my daughter's paper napkins because she's doing some business learning, so she's selling some paper napkins on my website. So if you want any of this other stuff, go to Hillbilly Scrapping. That's her plug for today. Okay, so texture paste, when it comes out of the jar, is obviously, it's not going to fall off. It's a paste. It's nice and thick, so it will dry raised and thick. So I'm just going to grab some out on the back of my spatula, so just an artist palette knife. I could use a gift card, which I may use as well in a minute. This is just from Cotton On Clothing. So I'm just going to put the texture paste down, and you're just going to scrape it through the stencil. Basically going to fill up the holes. You can excuse my sniffling. It's very cold here at the moment. I've had to turn my heater off and suffer for my art class because my heater is too loud to have on when I am filming. So I've done one pass, so I'm going to move my stencil and do some more. So grab some more out of the jar. Just sort of squishing it on. I'm going to come back and clean up any bits that I don't like in a minute. So I sort of squish it on haphazardly, and then I go and scrape it off to get it nice and smooth. I am working on a piece of scrap paper. Actually, I don't want to turn the frame too much because I still want the design to go up and down. So any of this stuff that's gone onto my drop paper, I can pick up instead of going back into my jar, so you don't sort of waste any of this stuff, which is good. So I'm going to go up here again and scrape where my chipboard is. So I'm doing this on the raw chipboard because we're going to coat it in gesso at the moment all together. We don't need to coat it with gesso first because we are going to coat it with our gesso when we dry the texture paste off. So I've just got a couple more passes of the stencil. If you're doing this for the first time and sort of a bit afraid that you will I suppose muck up or press into where your texture paste is on the previous go, like when I picked this up to put it down here, if I smudge a little bit, it's not the end of the world to me. I'm not looking for perfection, so I just go for it. But you could do it in sections and dry it with a heat tool in between, just so you didn't put your stencil in wet texture paste and smudge a bit of your designs. But I am just going to go for it. So I'm just going to scrape off my extra on my stencil and put it back in my jar. And I'm going to pick this up, and this does make a mess. So I'm just going to grab any big blobs that are sitting around. I'm going to scrape all this back. This is why I do this on scrap paper, because you don't want to do this on your desk. You could do it on a glass mat, probably not a craft mat. On a silicone mat would work. Okay, let's put this back down here. So these little bits, I'm trying not to get this everywhere. I'm a messy crafter. So I've got a couple of bits of chipboard that I haven't got texture paste on. So what I'm going to do is just take it on the back of my stencil and tap a little bit on. This will give it just a little bit of texture, but it's obviously too little to put the stencil on. So I'm just getting a bit of texture paste on the back and just tapping, so it'll have a bit of interest. It won't be flat. So just a bit. Oh, that's a bit too much. Come back and fix it up in a minute. So just tapping, just so it's not going to be flat when we go and add our colour on. I'm not sure what colours I'm going to do. I'm going to pick some papers in a minute and then we'll decide that. Oh, getting this everywhere today. I'm all thumbs. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So I want to double check that I've got all my big blobby bits scraped off. Like there's actually that's a bit of chipboard, that's not a big blobby bit. So I just put my hand on my stencil. Told you I'm all thumbs today. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now let me go clean up. I'm going to pause the video. You do need to wash your utensils and your stencil pretty well straight away when you're using texture paste, because it will dry like cement and it will actually damage your stencil. So let me see if I can press stop recording without getting texture paste on my mouse. I've got one clean finger and I shall return. So I just washed my utensils, so they are nice and clean. We are going to use them again later. Just putting them off to the side. So now we're going to dry this with a heat tool. You can let it naturally dry. It'll probably take, or if it's a hot day, a lot less, but it's freezing cold here, so I'm going to give it a go with the heat tool. And you just want to make sure with your heat tool that you're not too close to it. I'll just do a little bit and then I'll pause it and do the rest, because you don't want it to bubble. I don't want it to bubble in this circumstance. If you want extra texture, hold your heat tool really, really close, or your hairdryer, and let it bubble, and the texture paste will bubble up. But I don't want that in this particular circumstance. So I'm just going to heat dry this, and then I'll be back again. So this is nicely dried off now. Now we're going to give it a coat of gesso. Basically what the gesso will do is seal the raw chipboard and also seal the texture paste. Because these are two different surfaces, depending on what we use to actually, and I don't know what I'm going to use at the moment, to colour it with. I'm going to have a play with pattern papers and things first. And because they're two different surfaces, the gesso will seal it and allow whatever I put on top to work better, and it will even out this playing field of these two surfaces. So some products I'd put on, say for example, I was putting on, say, a watercolour paint. If I wanted, I've got some watercolour sort of effects in that paper pad, the watercolour would just soak straight into the chipboard. But if I put the gesso on, the gesso is a universal primer, and it's like an undercoat, and then things will sit on top a lot better. So I'm just going to coat the entire piece with the white gesso, and that'll give it one surface to for whatever I'm going to put on top, which I don't know yet. I often do this. I start an art journal page or start a scrapbook project, and I know I want to use this frame, and I've got a bit of an idea of a few embellishments I'm going to make with the stencil and stuff. Apart from that, no idea what I'm doing. Welcome to my life of chaos. So this is Montmartre Gesso. This is a brand that Hillbilly Scrapping does stock. This is great budget gesso. You don't need to spend a lot of money on your gesso. You can buy quite a budget one and save your money for more expensive things. So because I've got the texture paste on here, I'm sort of going around in a circular motion as opposed to just painting over the top. I'll do it over here. If I paint over the top, I'm not getting into the crevices between the texture paste. So I'm sort of doing almost a circling effect. Trying not to poke the camera with my paintbrush. So again, do this on a surface that you can easily clean up. This paper in the background is actually from the IGA deli or Safeway deli. It's just like newsprint without the print on it. It's what they wrap your meat in when you go to the deli here in Australia, and I just keep that paper and it's great. So this piece of paper will go in my, once it's nice and pretty with some other colour paints on it, it'll go in my scrap paper to use on a background for an art journal page, and it saves the cleanup. So I'm actually doing the sides as well. The sides, because these shapes are laser cut, they have a bit of a black sort of tinge to them because obviously it's burnt. So I'm just trying to get the sides of it as well as the top. The chipboard can be quite absorbent, so putting the white gesso on it will also allow you to use less of your more expensive finishing product, whatever that be. And you'll have to stick around in the video to find out what that will be, because I have no idea at the moment. Oh, I'm dreadful, aren't I? So just going round and round, trying to get all the nooks and crannies. Again, we're going to dry this and just put it aside and work on some of our other elements for our page. And then we're going to come back. I don't necessarily colour my chipboard until I've almost got my page finished or sort of set out to what colours my background papers and that are. My chipboard's probably the last thing I actually add colour to, just so I can work out what sort of colour I want it to be. But I know I wanted some texture on this, so I can go ahead to this stage. And as you can see, it's a bit lighter over here, so I'm just going to add a bit more white gesso. So I can get the chipboard to this stage, put it aside, work on my other layout. And the advantage of chipboard is you can colour coordinate it to your page as well. Those are all, hang on, I'm just going to, oops. I've got a jar full of brushes off to the side. I'm going to put one dirty brush in. I've got 5 clean brushes in there, so just try and take out the clean brushes and put them in my clean pot. That's not my clean pot. Okay, so I'm going to again heat dry this with the heat tool, and away we go. So I'll just pause you again. So now I've set my piece off to the side, and we're going to pick the papers we're going to use and work out what we're going to do with our bird stamp. So this is the Vicky Booten paper set. I was trying to look for a name for it, but the code above the barcode, if you're interested, is 343886. It just says mixed media pad. So I'm thinking it's got some beautiful watercolors in it. I'm going to fussy cut some of the flowers out, but I won't bore you with that. I'm looking for what I'm going to use as my background. I think I'm going to use this as my background. So I have this idea in my head. Let's bring my... Just making sure my piece of chipboard, I thought I'd finish with it. I haven't. Let's bring it back in. Just making sure it hasn't got any wet paint on it so I don't muck up my pattern paper. So I'm thinking maybe this as a background. I have an idea of having fussy cut some of these out, and make some bird embellishments and have sort of them clustered around somehow. Haven't worked out the somehow yet, but we're going to go with this. So I'm going to go and let's grab something that'll represent my photo, because I'm going to sort of have my photo tucked. Just one moment, I'll grab a scrap bit of paper. Okay, imagine this is my photo. We are going to have a pseudo photo because I haven't actually picked a photo to go on this one yet. So what I'm wanting to do is sort of tuck it in there and then have things sort of clustering out here. So I want to pull these two pages out. So they're going to be some of our embellishments we're going to fussy cut out. Then I want to pull in black around our photo. Here we are. Do a black mat around our photo, and then some, what other? Need to bring some multicolored striping into it. Oh, let's just drop that. Don't have anywhere to drop it. Floor sounds good. Okay. I'm just going to bring my paper trimmer in. So my photo is 4 by 6, so I'm going to cut some words to be 4.5. Is that 4.5? I'm not good with measuring things. 4.5 by 6.5. 6.5 is like up to there. So what I like to do, and we'll just take a chunk of this. I'm not even going to measure that because I just want sort of a chunk. Excuse the table if it is wobbling. My camera is actually attached to my, I might use either side of that, is attached to the back of my desk. So sometimes when I knock my desk, my camera wobbles. Okay, so what I like to do before I decide on what I'm going to colour this, I'll have a play around with my photo, and what I like to do is when I'm using these frames is I like to incorporate things on top of the frame, underneath the frame. So what I could even do is have my photo sort of have this corner under the frame, this corner under the frame, and this corner poking out the top of the frame. So you want the frame to be incorporated in your page. You don't want it to be stuck there so it just looks like it's stuck on top. So we're going to add some, might be too much stripes, do you reckon? What's on the back of the stripes? Ooh, plain of paper. Yeah, I think I like that. So this rectangle is going to sort of sit something like that. Then we are going to, do I want to sit? No. Now I want to work on some of my, I'd like to find my scissors. I would lose my head if it wasn't attached today. Seriously. So we are going to cut some of these flowers out, but I won't bore you in. What I'm going to do is roughly cut them out so I have an idea of what I'm going to. So I sort of am envisioning a bunch of flowers here and a couple of these cut out, even a half one. And I'll fussy cut these out because I want to work out how much space I've got to make some really cool birds with our stencil. So you're seeing my thought process. Isn't that scary? Okay, so I want it, that's going to be fussy cut and probably fussy cut here. Wanting some flowers to go up and over, probably wanting a few more flowers. How can I grab a few more flowers here? We're going to have a few more flowers coming up and under there, and then we're going to have some room for some birds. Let's size up our birds. So this is one of the stencils. I've only got a bird at this stage. This was made for a class last year at one of our events. So when you get the stencil, it actually looks like this. These birds are actually attached by the smallest of margins in the stencil. If we don't do that, they fly out of the machine. No, seriously, they do. The little ones do and we lose them. So you can just take a pair of sharp scissors, and as you can see, this one, it's almost falling off. It's held on by the smallest bit. So you can just come in here, and sometimes they will just twist off. If you twist them around, that one's going to twist off. Sometimes you just need to take a pair of scissors and snip them. So this is great because you've got the stencil and then you've got the mask. We're going to use the mask a bit today. And I'm going to have sort of a bird sitting there, and we're going to make our birds out of paper. Actually, do I want three? I want three sizes. Let's do a few more than we actually need, because then I can decide. Actually, we might have one up here. That will look rather cool. Or do I want to... I can procrastinate later. No, like small one up there. Okay. So, do I want my birds out of pattern paper? Or do I want my birds out of... Let me grab my paper pack back. Let's decide what we're going to cut our birds out of. Actually, I like green birds, yellow birds, pink birds. Pink birds. Let's go pink birds, and trying to look for lighter colours. Green, no. Blue, yellow. Ooh, oh. Blue, no. Trying to look for patterns that are sort of either this just scruffiness or small, but this is too dark, way too dark. It's a nice small... This one's a nice small pattern, but it's way too dark for what I wanted to do. Maybe some green. We'll go green. We'll make a couple of birds, and we will decide which ones we want. Okay, so I'm just going to move this layout out of here for a minute. Now, we can either use the masks or the stencils. The masks are great to position where you want them when you're deciding what you want to do. You want to grab a thin black pen. My cup of tools has got hidden behind my monitor. So you want to make sure you're going to draw your birds facing the right way. So for example, whoops, God, I'm getting in a mess today. I want my birds facing this way, and I'll probably have this one facing that way and this one facing this way. So I want to make sure I do that. So you can have the birds facing any direction, which is really cool. So I'm going to take my stencil because it's easier to do it with the stencil. I'm going to face it this way. I'm going to line it up on the edge, and this is just a Uniball Pilot Micron pen. It's just a very fine pen, which is really cool. And I like to do this with. So I am going to hold the stencil and draw around. So I've got to get quite close to see what I'm doing. draw around it. Then I'm going to take the stencil off, and you see I've got a line here where I whoopsied it up. Don't worry about that, because we're going to come back in and scribble over our lines to make our bird a bit more scribbly. The more lines you put on it, the more scribbly he looks, the more you'll cover up your mistakes, and the better he looks. So if I do another one, which we might do another green one. So if I just do this one, I'm sorry if my head gets in the way. For anyone that's new to my channel and me, I do have low vision. I'm not allowed to even drive a car. Tell you how blind I am. So sometimes I do need to get quite close to what I'm looking at to see. So I apologize if my head gets in the way or something moves out of frame. I try not to do that. Okay, so these are the two birds we've just done. See how the bottom one looks a whole lot better than the top one? The top one sort of looks, yeah, it's an outline, but this one has a bit more character. What we're going to do is bring back in our stencil, just making sure it's dry. Good old wipe it on the pants. And we're going to use this to give our bird a wing. So we are going to give our bird a wing. I'm just wondering which way I want. I want the heart up one way and I want the feathery things up the other way. Okay, we're going to do it this way. So we're going to line up one of these sort of half shapes of feathers to there. And I'm just going to scribbly draw 2 or 3 times through the stencil. Apologise if my head's in the way. Like that. And then I'm going to flip the stencil up. So I had the stencil up this way to draw the lines to get the curves. I'm going to flip it up this way to get a heart. I'm going to have to try to line it up. Something like that. And again, I'm just going to draw over a couple of times. And then we've got a little bird. We're just going to add a little eye. So just a circle with sort of a line through it for an eye. And he is going to look kind of cute. So we're going to fix up this other bird here because we might use the 2 green ones. So again, just sort of sketchy lines, tracing around, being quite loose. The looser you are, the better it looks. Put his eye in where his eye sort of should be. So this one's half sleeping. So again, we're going to take our stencil, we're going to do it upside down, and we're going to draw around our teardrops a couple of times. I love stencils for doodling like this and adding characters. And again, we're going to flip and find where the heart should be, somewhere there. So now we've got 2 cute little birds, and we might actually add some watercolour to these and give them a bit more colour. So I'm just going to quickly cut them out. What I like to do is when I cut them out is I like to leave a little bit. I don't like to cut right in the line. There's a little embroidery scissors I picked up from, I really don't know where. Possibly Kmart. I can't even read what that says on it. Or it could have been a cheapy shop. I just find they're nice for fussy cutting. If you've not fussy cutted a lot before, fussy cutting basically means cutting out of shape, if you hear the word fussy cutting. So you tend to keep your scissors in the same spot. As you can see, my scissors aren't really moving a lot. My paper is moving. So I'm using my left hand to actually swing my paper around, and you'll get a better look than trying to move this hand around. So you leave your scissors in basically the same spot and you fussy cut around. So it doesn't take long. You could also use a bird die as well if you've got a bird die in your collection. I'd love you to buy my stencil though. Aren't I terrible? So everything I use in this layout that I make and manufacture is actually 25% off for the month of August, and you'll find them on our website under Great Australian Craft Show Great Australian Craft Show number 5 class things. So I do think they need some more colour. Just getting rid of, I did have a rubbish bin and it's nowhere to be seen. So bringing back this with our birds, we're going to sort of have birdies up here. Oh, we're going to do one more bird. We'll do a pink bird, but we want the smaller one. So obviously when you're doing birds, if I did it out of something like this pattern, it would sort of detract from the bird, so I'm wanting to do sort of plainer shapes. So I'm going to add a bit of colour into them, and this would just be a funny looking bird. So I do like to do the birds out of the plain colours. So this time I'm going to flip my stencil this way because I want my bird facing to the, that's the left, Melinda. I have trouble with my left and my right. Still, at my age, I shouldn't. So I'm just going to do exactly the, whoops, do exactly the same thing. I really can't see what I'm doing. And just draw around him with the sketchy lines. Put his little eye in. Where does his little eye be? His little eye be there. So sort of a circle and a line. And then we're going to use the same stencil that I lost to do some feathers. This time we're going to do the feathers up the right way, just for something different. Make him a little different because he's standing out on his own. So stencils can be used in a lot of different ways. So we've used this stencil for texture paste. Now we've just used it to draw through. He's rather cute. You can use stencils in a huge variety of ways. They're so versatile. And normal price of my, well, in August 2020, I usually don't like quoting prices in videos because if you watch this in a few years' time, things might have changed. But August 2020, our stencils without being on sale are $5 for a 6x6 size. So they're quite reasonably priced. We also, while I'm cutting this out, we also have a custom-made service on our chipboard, on our foam stamps, on our chipboard foam stamps, and the stencils. So if there's a particular design you'd like to see in a stencil, or you see this and you go, oh, I would love that to be bigger, we can then make it into a 12-inch size. So you can just email us and ask for any particular stencil. This bird set, I am looking at doing some other shapes. So if you have a particular shape in mind you'd like the stencil and the mask set for, just email us through the website or Facebook and we can do that. Now these birds are looking a bit plain, so we're going to grab my watercolors and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so just grab my watercolors. Why watercolors? Because they were just on the bench behind me and I thought we'd use them. So you could use basically anything to colour these birds with. You could add coloured pencil, you could add markers. I just decided watercolors because that's sort of what's in the paper range. So I'm not sure whether this pen is waterproof. I should have checked that, shouldn't I? Doesn't say. Oh, waterproof, fade proof. Okay. So if you are doing something with water over the top, just make sure that pen is waterproof. Now, oh, I do have a spray bottle. What I tend to like to do is spray. Oh, so these watercolors are PBO watercolors that I did get from an overseas website. But you can get watercolors, even kids' watercolors work. Hillbilly Scrapping has some awesome watercolors, even some shiny ones. So what I'm going to do, this one's green, so I want to sort of keep in the greens and the blues. So just spray them to activate them a bit. And then I just want to pick some up and bear in mind this is only cardstock, so I don't want to add too much water, but I sort of want to add a bit of colour to him. So just putting a bit of blue down, a bit of, I might go grab a bit of yellow. Wanting to stay in the colours that are in my paper range and also that won't make mud when they get mixed together. So sort of dipping my brush in the water and sort of just giving them a bit of colour. I just want to do over here, over his wings. I'll see how these look. Trying to sort of match this to the colour range as well. It's fun to make your own embellishments that go with papers that you buy. I like doing this in my art journal and I also like doing it in my scrapbooking because then I'll put some of my sort of artwork on the page, just adding a bit of yellow to the front. So I've sort of done blue, green and yellow in sort of a bit of a gradient. A bit more yellow on this one. I've lost the yellow. So just wanting to sort of blend the colours in so it doesn't look like you've got one colour here, one colour there. You sort of want to blend them in. And I'm not going outside the lines of the bird. We'll see how those dry in a minute. I like these little birds. These are cute. These would look nice on a card too. So this one's got a pink background. So I'm sort of going to go pinks and probably purples a bit. Because he's on his own and he's going to sit on that bit of cardstock chipboard, I want him to stand out a bit more, so I'm going to make him a tiny bit darker, and I want to sort of put a bit of bluey purple on him and a bit more pink. As you can see, I'm not doing this really accurately. I'm trying to stay within my line just so it gives the bird a bit of a border, and then we're going to give that a bit of a dry. There you've made your own little birdie embellishments. These are great even for the kids to do. It'd be great to sit down and make a bunch of these, and then you've got them to just positioning that heat tool because I don't want those drips to run. So they don't take long to dry. Oops, he wants to run away. Let me put my scissors on him. So I just want to dry that bit that's near his head. Actually, I might want to thin that out a bit. So as I said, this is not watercolour paper, so you don't want to flood it with water, but you can just add, getting a bit hot, you can add a bit of colour to it. As I said, I'd use these on my art journal page. That's what we designed this stencil for. But it's also fun to incorporate them onto your scrapbook page as well. Get the kids to make you some, if you've got kids that can draw or paint, get your kids to decorate some little embellishments for you. Just going to pop this away because we're finished with this. My camera is having issues with the lighting. I'm just going to move so I can move something into there so it doesn't flash out on you. Here we go. Just not going to put my lid on this until it dries, so I do leave my lid off my watercolours for several hours so they will dry out again. I have had watercolours where I've sealed the tin up and they've gone a bit yucky, a bit mouldy, so we don't want that to happen. So see how now my embellishments match my page. Doesn't it look like they come out of the pattern paper book? Okay, I'm going to go fussy cut these flowers out. Basically, I'm going to cut off the background of these, and I will fussy cut these out, or just trim around them a bit more, and then I will be back. You don't need to watch me fussy cut flowers because that is boring as watching paint dry. You saw me fussy cut the birds. Looks like a mama and a baby bird. Oh, cute. Okay, so I'll cut all those out and I'll be back. And we will move on to the next step. Okay, so back to our page. Oh, I really need more desk space or less stuff. Okay, I've decided I want to trim it in black. This is a hint I picked up from Hillbilly Scrappin'. She borders a lot of things. They look really cool. So I'm stealing the idea. So this is just a piece of Case Craft black cardstock. Just going to cut off the branding strip. Okay, just going to cut off the branding strip again because I missed it. So that's going to be our backing page. And then I'm going to take, so I fussy cut our flowers out. That's what I left doing. Fussy cut those out. I'm going to take all of this off. I'm going to cut this down, cut the branding strip off here. Keep that for something. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually have probably 1/2 centimetre border all the way around. So if I cut 1 centimetre off 2 sides, that'll give me 1/2 centimetre all the way around. Now, what side do I want to cut it off? So I said 1 centimetre, didn't I? So that much. So if I take 1 centimetre, whoops, moved. It moved. Where am I going to? Top of the numbers. So 1 centimetre off that side, and deciding what colour. I don't particularly like this side, so we're going to take it off that side as well. Excuse me if my head gets in the way. Keep those for another day. I have a big scrap box. I throw everything in. I can't throw anything out. I am absolutely dreadful. Now we should have, what I tend to do is I don't stick anything down until I am finished with the page. have I got? And I'm going to black on black, but now you've got a black border around that. Let's pick this up and slide our pieces back on. I fussy cut some more flowers for the top. So I'm still umming and ahhing. I think I know what I'm going to do with my chipboard. As you put your layout together, it sort of grows on you of what, I don't know where I had that. I had that coming out and sitting there, that there. As you sort of do your page a bit more, I had these tucked in. So I'm having these going over the frame. Did I have, oh no, I had that one there. And I'll have to just, I've got half a flower here. I have to cut another whole flower just to have. And what I'm doing is I'm actually covering up this swirl here, which I don't want to lose it because it's really cool. So I'm looking for my heavy duty scissors. So to cut chipboard, it's not a good idea to use these sort of, my fussy cutting scissors, big in the big boys, Tim Holtz scissors. These are fantastic for chipboard. So what I'm going to do is actually cut this swirl off. And don't be hesitant to cut the chipboard up into pieces to better suit your project. Just because it comes in a particular shape doesn't mean that it has to stay that shape when you go to use it. So I'm just trying to put that back in the one spot. I will use this on something. So this went over there, this went over here, this went up here. So this is going over the frame. This is on top of the frame. So we want to sort of have things. I had my big bird there, didn't I? Big bird. Now, how I had these before. Oh, I sort of had him nestled in. That's what I had. And what I might actually do is, when I finally stick it down, this white bit is my photo. I might tuck that under there. So you won't know now that it's been chopped off. And I apologise for that ripping noise. That is my daughter's bunnies deciding that they want to be starring in the video. I will go take their box off them if they don't settle down. Bunnies, be quiet. We give them cardboard boxes to tear up. And more than likely, they tear them up while I'm trying to film. So now I can take this piece and I could actually, well, I could re-gesso it and have it coming out this way, or we have it coming out this way. So instead of losing it under the, actually I do like it coming out this way. So I'm going to have to re-gesso that, which is not a big issue. We'll have that coming out over there. Okay, so now I've got my general placement. I can fiddle with these. Now, I've had an idea for the frame. Whether the idea will work, I have no idea, but let's have a go. So let's move all of this out of here without the frame. We are going to quickly gesso this piece. So I'm going to bring my scrap paper back in because I want this piece to go that way. Where's my gesso gone? And if those bunnies don't stop, I'm going to confiscate their box. They're going to lose it. They lost it. They lost it earlier today. I gave it back to them because it's their little hutch they sleep in. We don't buy them good things because they just wreck it. Okay, so just giving this a coat of gesso so I can flip it around and use it the opposite direction. Oh, I was just double checking I am filming. Oh yes, the numbers are ticking up. I had a slight heart flutter that I hadn't pressed the record button again. I do that sometimes. I get carried away and forget to hit the record button. Just going to dry that off just a tiny bit, just a moment. Okay, so I just dried that off. So my idea is to, getting stuff all over my fingers, to use some watercolors on this and then put some black ink over to catch the raised bits. I've got the idea in my head. Worst comes to worst, if it doesn't work out, I can re-gesso it again and start again. So I'm just going to activate my watercolors again. Chipboard's very forgiving, so if you do have an idea and say paint it one color, pop it on your layout and it doesn't look like it sort of goes. Gesso's your friend. You can sort of re-gesso it and go again. So I'm just wanting to sort of, I don't know how this is going to look. I've never done watercolors over gesso before, so it's going to be a different look. When it dries, it's going to be a bit different as well. So I'm sort of wanting to put patches of colour like the background page. I don't know, as I said, I just had this idea. And we'll see, it may not work. But it's fun to experiment. Hey, if it doesn't work, you might not see this part of the video or edit it out. So I'm pushing the watercolours around with a little bit of water. And you can still see the texture underneath, which is really nice. Sort of going pinks and oranges and reds and pinks. As I said, I don't know whether this will look any good on the page, but art journaling is all about not art journaling, wrong hat, scrapbook hat on today. Scrapbooking is all about experimenting for me when I do my mixed media pages. As I said, if it doesn't work, I just want to be a bit careful with that orange and purple, because that'll make mud if I'm not careful. So you can definitely see the texture through the colour, which is what I'm wanting to do, and then I'm wanting to add some black to bring out the texture. But we'll see, it might be drying too light. So just sort of putting blobs of colour on, trying to get the colour a little bit darker in places, a little bit lighter in others. Keep re-wetting my watercolours. What I'm going to do is do this and then sit it on my page and see if I like it, or see if I have to go back to the drawing board. This is the great thing about Chipboard, is you can make it match whatever colours and whatever theme you're using in your scrapbook page, which is wonderful. Now I just want to give that a quick dry, and then I'm going to try the black over the top in a part of it. So the watercolours don't need a lot of time to dry, but I'll just pause. So I've got that dry. It's not looking like much at the moment. I'm finding my black ink pad. Oh, I thought I had it on my desk from earlier today. Hang on a moment. Oh, no, I've thrown it in the box that I was demonstrating earlier today. So my idea is to bring out the embossing with, this is just an archival ink pad, and just dab on the top. So this is an archival ink pad, so this will dry permanent. So if I want to add a darker colour over the top, this ink is not going to move. So that's the reason I wanted to grab my archival ink pad. So I'm just gently brushing it. No, that just looks wet. It's not wet. Brushing it over the top, and it's picking up the raised areas. This is very different. Sort of what I envisaged in my head. I think I envisaged darker colours, but darker colours also might get lost on the page. We'll see. So very lightly just brushing and just moving over the top to pick up the texture paste. And you can go sort of as dark as you want. This is why we also put texture paste on these little things, so we had a bit of a raised area to grab. So I'm just going over and going a little darker, being careful not to push too hard, because I don't want to push the ink pad down. Keep getting caught in the heart. I'll just go up this way. Don't want to push the ink pad down and cover up the colour. So let's have a look to see what that looks like on our page. It may look terrible. It may look really cool. We'll have a see. We'll have a look. What a shame I'm not doing this live, and then I can ask you what you think. I think I'm liking it. Let me get all my pieces back on my page. I don't tend to stick anything to my page until I've moved it around 100 times and decided that I absolutely love it. Because I could change my mind. There's my birdie. So my bird sort of covers up that this flower is missing up the top here, but he's just going to sit up here. So as I said, I wanted to incorporate things on top of the frame, underneath the frame, around the frame. And this is going to go over here somewhere. That ink might be a little wet, so I'm just trying to be careful not to stick my big fingers in it. So again, this went up and over and under, up and over and under. So we had this one sitting in here, and we had this one sitting down here. Actually, let me stand up a bit. Oh, I just noticed I've got gesso on my pants, another pair of arty pants I've just disintegrated. Now I've got this, which I can go and add some colour to. It's not quite dry yet. I do like that coming up out of the cluster. So, do I need to make this any darker? Do I need to bring a bit of blue into it? Do I need to change? I don't have a lot of blue in the chipboard piece, so I'm just going to change it round and see what it looks like in this angle. Oh, that bit goes up there. That bit goes up there. That bit goes there. Actually, I think I'm liking that better. I didn't like that big blob of blue up there. Okay. What next? I think it needs some white in the background. So what I'm going to do is go raid my mixed media, white mixed media cardstock that I cut shapes out of as well, and go see what shapes I can incorporate into this, because I think it needs a bit of a lacy texture. So bear with me a moment. I'm not sure whether this is what I'm looking for, but we'll have a go and see if they work. If not, I'll go looking again. Not that one, these ones. So these flourishes come in a 6 by 6 inch size, and you basically just snip them in between. They're just a bit easier to grab out of the laser machine in one piece than lots of little pieces. And you just snip the interconnecting pieces. So just snipping these pieces away. Oh, there's another piece over there. So these are 400 GSM mixed media cardstock. So they are a thick cardstock, so I could go and ink them or paint them, but I do think I want to keep them a bit white. I think it just needs a pop of white, because the only thing we've got is white in the text, in the wording. We don't have a lot of white in the piece at the moment. So if I use a colour one place on the art journal page, I've got my wrong hat on tonight. We use white in one section of the project. Let's go to the word project, because that works. I like to use it in another spot. So I sort of just want to, so that's going to sit. Oh, I could actually use these as feather, like funky tail feathers for the birds. I just had an idea. Why am I whispering? I just had an idea. I might see if these work as tail feathers. Sorry, just off camera, just cutting these connecting bits off. As I said, I've got to be quite close sometimes to cut things off without, if I hold it over here, I just can't see. These would make really cool. I'm just going to snip one in half. Really cool tail feathers. Reckon? And then maybe no. I think we'll just stick 2 flourishes. The tail feathers aren't looking as cute, but I do like that one there, sort of coming out of his I'm going to tuck it behind and sort of coming out of here. I like that pop of white because we've got a bit of white over here as well. I'm thinking I want one down here. So all our shapes on our website, whether they be in chipboard, stencils, or mixed media white cardstock, can be cut in the other varieties. So if you see something in chipboard and you go, oh, that would be really nice in the thinner material, don't hesitate to just contact us and say, I placed an order, but I would like to add this, this, and this. Can I have it cut in the white mixed media cardstock? And we can certainly do that. It's a big job to add all our products in the mixed media cardstock as well as the chipboard. Our website at the moment won't allow me to offer you the choice of what you'd like. I like the 3 pieces down there. One day I will upgrade my website, but not at the moment, not when we're not doing shows. And I like putting things in groups of 3. I'm just trying to... So I think I'm liking that. I've got a cluster up the top and a cluster down the bottom. My page keeps moving. Am I going to add this? Or do I just... I don't think I want to add that now. That'll go in my scrap box. I'll use this curly bit that I cut off on another project another day. Now I could go and colour this white mixed media cardstock, but I think I've got enough colour on there. Actually, I wonder if they'd look any good black. No, I want to bring the white into it. Stop procrastinating, Melinda. Or I could sit here and procrastinate all night. I'm just wondering if I need something in the background, some stenciling. I think I want to incorporate some of the stenciling in the background. So with this, do I want to go white or do I want to go black? I sort of want to have a bit up here and a bit peeking out down here. Or will that be too much? Now I'm getting to procrastination stage, but I'm wondering if... Yes, we're going to do it. Let's just do it. Okay, now what I'm actually going to do is snap a photo of that. This is a good tip as well. Everyone has smartphones these days. Let's use them in a smart way. Because I'm going to take all this apart and work on my background, I'm actually just going to snap a quick photo, because then when I go to... I've got to get out of all my apps I'm into on my phone. Where's my camera? When I go to put it back, I can have an idea of where things go. Also, if you're changing your mind, if you want to change it around a bit and do it in a different way, it's good to snap a photo. And so I'm going to take all these bits off. Worst comes to worst, if I go and do something on the pattern paper that I don't like, I do have a second sheet I can swap back out, but I think it just needs something. So I'm just going to grab all these pieces and put them off to the side. So I'm mainly wanting something here and something up here. Now, I think I'm going to do it in white gesso actually, because I just want it to be, the white gesso should go on quite faint. So I'm just going to grab this sponge that I used earlier today and grab my white gesso. The white gesso will be quite subtle as well. I don't really want the white to be in your face, if that makes sense. Okay, where's my spatula? Just want to grab a little bit of white gesso and put it in the lid, because it's too far to reach down in my tub. So this is just a cosmetic makeup sponge, so just going to dab it with a little bit of gesso and sort of dab it off, because the less you have on the sponge the better. Then we're just going to sponge it up and down. So now we've used this stencil in 3 different ways. We've used it with texture paste, we've used it with gesso. Actually, I want that to be a bit darker. I need a bit more. It's always good, you can go darker, but it's hard to go lighter. So just holding the stencil down tapping up and down. I know that's going to be under where my heart is, but that's okay. I don't really want it to, I want it to go under the heart so the heart sits on top so it doesn't look like it's just floating in midair. So it's going to connect. And this I'm just going to come out a bit closer. I need a bit more. This is tricky, trying to hold the stencil and get my gesso out. I need a third hand. Where's my assistant when I need her? She's in bed playing on a computer. Oh, I think I like that. Okay. So, for example, gesso, I don't necessarily clean off my stencil because it is not going to dry like cement, like the texture paste. A lot of my stencils and that do have paint on them, but I always wash off the texture paste. Let me just throw that in the rubbish bin for a minute because that's the closest thing I've got to put it in, and I'll get it out in a minute. Okay, let me dry this off. Okay, let's see if we can bring all our bits and pieces back in to have a look. So I'll start with putting that about there, that about there, that about there, that goes about there, that comes out of there. So now it's just a matter of, that one went up and under there. I'm all thumbs when I'm trying to put this back because I keep moving things. He went there, he went there. Why am I talking to my pieces? This one up here. We had like 3 bits up there. We had some of these down here. I didn't have... Sorry, just fiddling around with placement. I will do this with 100 pieces on an art journal page or a scrapbook page, and we'll literally have bits everywhere. But I know what I'm generally going to make it look like. So I think that in the background just lifts it. I'm just wondering whether I want to do some hand outline some of them. I think I do. I think I want to bring a bit of black into the background. So off the pieces come again. Off with your head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly wash that stencil, and I'm going to come back and outline some of these shapes in the background. Sorry about all the stopping and starting, but unfortunately with mixed media layouts there's a lot of washing and drying and all that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this stencil up if I can. See what I'm doing. Sorry if my head's in the way. And then I'm just going to randomly, sketchily draw through the stencil like I did with the bird wings. But I'm not going to do every one. I'm sort of going to do just a little bit here and there, and I know some of this is going to be covered up. Deliberately doing some that isn't white gessoed as well. So just a little bit, and we sort of want, so just doing the scribbly sketching around the stencil again. I'm going to turn this upside down because it's just easy for me to see. I feel like Mr. Squiggle, upside down. Some of you would remember Mr. Squiggle if you're in my era of years, which I won't admit to what era I'm in of years now. So I want these ones. So it doesn't matter if you're real messy with these, because the more line times you go over it, oh, I can't see what I'm doing, the better it is. So I love stencils because you can just do so much with them. And I think this will just make this pop in the background. I can always add a bit more after I've stuck everything on, and that's our next step. Is I've got to find my double-sided tape and my glue and start assembling. And I'll show you how I assemble a page with a big chipboard frame on it. Okay, we'll stop with that. Okay, I've got glue there. I've got double-sided tape somewhere, and I probably need some foam tape. Let me go gather some. Okay, the fun bit, sticking it all down. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually stick this down. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape, and Hillbilly Scrapping sells all sorts of adhesives. I'll show you a trick when you're sticking stuff down to get it straight. So I'm going to put a big strip all around the 4 edges. I saw this on a YouTuber when she makes cards, because I have trouble with my vision of lining things up, because I'm as blind as a bat from a distance. But this is an easy trick I stole off the YouTuber. I can't remember who she was, so credit to whoever it was. Okay, so now peel your double-sided tape off about 1 inch and fold it so it's on the outside of your page. So do that to every strip of tape. So I've got 4 strips of tape, so I'm going to do that 4 times. This tape is probably a bit thick, but I'm using up bits and pieces. So I'm using up what I have, and I should probably cut it in half, but I'm being a little bit lazy. Then I'm going to take some 450 quick dry. This is the glue I recommend for chipboard. It comes out like a gel, so we're just going to have to wait. You can see it running down the pot. We're going to have to just wait a second until it gets up to the tip. I should store this upside down. The only disadvantage, the only thing I don't like about this glue is when it gets down to about 1/3 full, you have to wait until it gets to the tip. Because it is a gel, it's not like a gushy glue. So now I'm just going to put a little bit just to hold it. This is all behind our photo and our frame, so if it buckles a tiny little bit, we are not going to see it. Now, pick it up and make sure those bits that you flicked up of your tape are on the outside. And you can actually line this up. Because you haven't exposed a lot of tape, you can actually line it up, press it down in the corners, and then grab these bits of tape. Yeah, I'll show you a trick. Ooh! Oh, magic. So then you can hold that bit down, pull this bit, and then you can line it up very, very well. So pull this one. Whoops, did I? And last one. And you can get it as straight as I can get it. And if it's a little crooked, well, that's just me. There we go. Loving that background. Wish I could create a watercolor background like this. That would be really cool. Now, what I will do is I'll use the double-sided tape for the pieces of paper. But what I'm sort of going to do is position these and put them into sets. I'm going to put a little bit of tape on the back of here just to represent my photo. I'll have to go find a beautiful photo of my daughter to put on this. Now it's got a smudgy mark on it, but hey, that's life today. So I'm going to position this. I'm going to bring my frame in, get all my bits off my frame, because I want my frame to be in. And so you can see a little bit of the drawing, a little bit of the white, a little bit of drawing, a little bit of the white. That's what I want. So I want this to sort of be even. Okay, so now I know where I'm going to stick this bit. So I'm going to stick this bit down. Now I could ink the edges of these pattern papers, but I'm not going to. I think it's sort of busy enough. I think there's enough contrast. Yeah, this tape's probably overkill, but it's a little old and I do want to use it up. So we are going to go about there. I think it was about there. So I keep the frame, the 12-inch frame is probably the last thing, or one of the last things I stick down. I'll put in some other things first. So I'm going to stick this Actually, I'm going to stick my cluster up the top first. So bits like this I will stick with this 450 glue, just because we've got funny shapes. And it's got to wait for it to move down the end of the bottle. When this does get down to a third glue, darn phone going off. I'll bring that person back. Always when I'm filming. So sorry, just watching, we are filming. Yes, the number is ticking over. Who puts the timer in the top right-hand corner in really small font, white on red? Whoever designed that was silly. Back to it. Okay, when this gets down to about a third full, like a third left, buy a new bottle. You're wondering why. Use the new bottle till it's about half empty. Pop this into a pot of, like, boil some boiling water in the kettle, pop it into a container, like a saucepan or something that's waterproof, like heat proof. Dip this in for about 30 seconds. It will liquefy and then pour it. It'll pour like water into your new bottle, and then you won't waste any of it. We refill. It's more economical to buy these big bottles, so we actually refill little bottles for the classes, just because it's easier to have little bottles on the class table. We have, usually at our classes, we have 6 per trestle table. So it gets a bit squishy if we have lots of large tools. So I often go and refill all the little bottles from bigger bottles. Now I'm going to stick this over here. So that's a good trick for your glue. And it doesn't affect the glue at all when you heat it up and liquefy it. That's actually how glue is made. And actually a lady that works in a glue factory told me that at one of my classes, because I was complaining that that's the only thing I don't like about this glue. And she goes, tip it into a new bottle. I said, oh, didn't think of that. Just noticed I've got a little bit of white paint on this mandala. So the one with the white paint is going to be the one I stick under there. So see how I'm using this frame to line everything up with? And I've not stuck my frame down yet. So this flower goes here. That little bit of tape on my finger. Sorry if I'm out of frame. Got to see what I'm doing. So just putting a little bit of glue on, and I sort of use the tip to actually want to put foam tape on those. Let me grab some foam squares before that glue dries. I forgot I wanted to bump these up. When I'm doing some chipboard on a layout, I do like to bump up a few of my paper elements as well, just to meet the height of the chipboard, just to give it some more depth. Because if chipboard is the only thing that's raised on your page, it can look a little funny. Okay, now we take this off. Oh, get off my finger. So I will add a little bit of extra glue to these foam dots because I just don't trust them. Sometimes the adhesive is not great on the foam. So I always add just a touch of liquid adhesive just to make sure they stick very well. Especially because I'm using up things that are a couple of years old. I found in my stash. All about using up stuff this year so I can go buy new stuff. But Hillbilly does have some awesome foam and adhesive. She has some awesome really thin strips that we use a lot in our classes. See how that popped up just adds a bit more dimension. I'm going to stick the photo down yet. Yes, I'm going to stick our photo down, but I don't want to do it on that corner. So I want to do it on the top because that's going to come out on top of the frame. So I want to do it there and about halfway along there. So again, just using my frame for positioning. Has to come down a bit before you stick, Ugh. Down a bit more. I think it went there. It's not straight. There we go. It's a bit straighter now. Okay, so just using this as positioning again. That goes under there. Obviously my photo is going to go on top of that white square. Now this is going to go up and under here. So again, this is popped up and then we've got it coming up and over the frame. So it's important to have things coming up and over the frame, but we're not going to quite stick that yet because we have to stick our frame down first. Let's find our little bit that went over there. So I tend to stick everything down that's not on top of the frame first, and then because once you stick your frame down, sometimes it's hard to like tuck things up and under. Okay, what else can I stick down? So that is going to sit like, he's going to sit like there. He sits. Did that come up a bit, did it? That went up there, up and under there. So he sort of sat more up there. It's a he bird, is it? So now I think we're nearly ready to stick our frame down because everything else can be tucked. These get tucked in. My other bird gets stuck up here. Up here. Okay. So I'm going to stand up when I stick my frame down because then I can get a better judgment of it. What did I just throw on the floor? Something. Scrap of paper. Oh, my birdie went on the floor. Excuse me a minute. Nearly lost my birdie. He wanted to fly away. So I don't have to, actually I'll sit back down and then I'll stand up when I actually stick it on. I don't have to get everything stuck down. What I'm going to do is stick to the main sections. These little bits I'm just going to add a little bit. These bits up here I'm probably just going to let fly free. Because it's going in a plastic pocket in a scrapbook album, you don't have to plaster the whole thing with glue. Just waiting for this glue to get down the tip. Come on. It's very cold tonight here and I've turned my heater off so I could film. So it's the glue's getting a bit hard. Yes, I suffer for my art. I turn the heater off to do videos. I have to do the two-handed method. Hopefully we don't start drying till we get glue on it just about everywhere. So you can sort of use the tip of this to spread out your glue. You don't want big blobs. The advantage of this glue is it's like super glue. We've stuck stuff to canvases and paintbrushes and all sorts of stuff. So it's really good, strong glue. And because it's a gel more than a glue, it doesn't gush up and under when you what am I trying to think of? Like, it's not a really liquid, so it won't come out from under the chipboard. You only need the tiniest little amounts. That's what I'm trying to get out. Okay, so now I've got to do a bit of foam taping under these bits. So I probably need one bit under there. So this does get a bit fiddly. I need a couple of bits under there. So I'm basically putting foam tape around where the chipboard sits. So this is going to sit over the chipboard, so I don't need foam tape there, otherwise it's going to get too bulky. So before I go and take all my glue off, my foam tape strips off, and that's going to be tucked under there when I do it. And that's going to be tucked under there. Okay, so I need some foam tape here. So before I take the backing of the foam tape off, I'm just positioning my piece so I can work out where the foam tape goes. And I might actually stick it directly down to the bit of paper here. Sometimes that's a bit easier than trying to put it on the die cut and line it up. So I'll take those two off, take these off. Now I just want to add a little bit of Where's this going? A little bit of glue where it's going to sit on the chipboard just helps it hold on. Sorry, just giving this glue a bit of a shaking's not helping. It's just cold and taking its time tonight. Come on, glue. Be nice to me. It means I have to go buy another one. I have to go hillbilly shopping. I do need quite a few things. I haven't seen her for ages with lockdown. Mainly because I don't drive and I usually go on public transport, and I'm just not going on public transport unless absolutely necessary. Unless it's like when my computer died the other day, I had to go buy a new one, so I had to go into town. But other than that, I am not travelling much. Well, no one's travelling much at the moment. So I've got this little bit overlapping the frame, which I like. Let's bring our birdies in. So our birdie sits here. So I want this flower to sit on top of my bird so they don't look like they're just stuck in. And this one's sort of going to go in there somewhere. What I might do is trim that flower out. So this, should have worked out this before I stuck it. So this flower here, I just want to put a few little slits in going round, and I apologise if you see my head, around the flower so the bird can sort of poke in there. Because you want your elements to sort of belong. You don't want them to look like they're just stuck on top. Loving my birds. Just wondering if I need a bit more blue. That birdie's going to sit up there. Again, he's going to need foam tape under his butt. So I'm just going to add, where are we going to add? He's going to sit, oh, I'm sitting there. So I'm just going to add a foam tape there. And I need one next to it. So sometimes it's easy to add the foam tape here on the back of the page as opposed to the front. And you're probably all bored of seeing me stick stuff down. Sorry, just had to start and stop the video because if it gets too long, my editing program doesn't like it. Too long in one sitting, in one video. There we go. I deliberately want his tail sort of sticking up. Yes, it will go down a bit in the plastic pocket. So now do I need... So I'm not going to stick my head of my bird down. He's going to sit there on, but I need some foam tape in here just to make him sit up straight. If you don't put the foam tape in, he will sort of... oh no, there's a big bird going up there. Big bird, not little bird. Okay, so I only need the one foam tape. So this time I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back here so he sits from probably about halfway back to his tail, because I don't want to glue that bit down because I want to be able to slip my photo under his head when I eventually get around to sticking a photo on. No, he goes over that bit, doesn't he? Yes, he goes over that one, under that one, like weaving things. This one goes here, and then we've got our white bits of mixed media cardstock to do, and then we're just about finished. Do I want him... He's going to sit there, so I need some foam tape under him. Sometimes if I don't have foam tape available, I will use scrap chipboard, and that will enable me to pop something up that's quite lightweight. If I run out of foam tape, I'll often use bits of chipboard behind photos or behind, and often I'll use the scrap bits, like the negative bits from around where these shapes are cut. Do I want his... I want a little bit more glue on him, but I don't want to stick him down completely. I like some of my shapes sort of half floating, like I like his tail floating, and I like his head sort of floating. Okay, now we get to position where these were. So I sort of want... I like to tuck the ends under things so they look like they're growing out of it, not just sort of stuck there as well. I don't know, I'm quite funny when I do art journal pages or, now these are stuck together. Come on, shapes. Or scrapbook pages. I like things to sort of look like they belong. Like, for example, I can't stand things that just look like they're floating. These do have a right and a wrong side. The wrong side does have a few little... Oh, I could have that coming. Oh, it's coming out his head. It's coming down a bit. Oh, I quite like that. It wasn't how I had it originally, but I do like it. I like having things sort of grounded and not just like floating. I don't know where I had this big one. Did I have this big one on here? Possibly. Having a bit of trouble positioning these. I might have to cut a few of them down because of the foam tape. The foam tape wasn't there when I was positioning them before. So for these ones, I just sort of pick the thickest bits and try to get a bit of glue on them. They're quite thin to stick down. Just picking up these bits, trying to shove it up under there. Isn't that terrible? So I'll glue these ones down because I know where these ones are going. So as I said, the white mixed media cardstock is, some of it comes out a little bit more sort of burnt or marked than others. It's a laser machine, it burns things. 90% of the time I colour them anyway, so it doesn't matter. Or I could have painted these with white gesso if I found that I had a few burn marks where I didn't want them, or I wanted to flip the shape over and use it reversed. I'm nearly done. You've done well if you've listened to me waffle for nearly 2 hours. No. I sometimes get a bit wordy when I do things. It's hard to actually craft and talk. A lot of my videos that I put up, I will speed up the process. Just going to stand up and have a look at that. And do a voiceover because that's a lot easier than trying to craft and talk. But these ones are requested in real time. I love how we've got a bit of the scribbling here. We can see a bit of it here. We can see a bit of it here. Really loving this. The frame is really subtle, like it doesn't stand out, and that's not what I wanted. I'm just wondering whether I need to use this up here. No, I don't. Where did I have this one originally? See, I should go back and look at my phone, shouldn't I? Where did I have that one originally? I don't think I actually used it. I've got 3 down the bottom and I've got 3 bits up the top. 1, 2. Do I want... Knowing when to stop is also hard with any project as well. But if I'm going to snip that off. Because I'm only going to use half it if I use it anywhere. I just don't want it to look like it's growing out of the bird. I like these because they're sort of... They've got purpose. Maybe we... No, it looks like he's going to eat it. No, I don't think I want to use... Where do I stick it? Here. I think I am done. I'll give you a bit of a close-up, but I will take some close-up photos and post them. I don't know whether my lighting's going to do it. Post them at the end of this video. No, the lighting is going to be a pain. So thank you very much for joining us on our... What are we? Page frame layout. And we've used stencils in a few different ways. We've used them with texture paste, gesso, we've scribbled through them, we've made some birds with our bird stencil. I think that is a really cute layout. Cannot wait to find a photo to put there. And I hope you go forth and make some of your own embellishments for the page. They look like they've come out of the paper pad. Thank you very much for watching. So all these products I have used will be on sale for 25% off for the month of August on our website. So if you want to pop over and grab any of the bits and pieces, or I'd love to see if you create a layout like this or inspired to decorate the chipboard in this way. I will chat to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you very much for watching.